Hello everyone, this is the second part of our Alchemist workshop project. As a follow-up to the last video, I'm gonna start with a challenge. I didn't mention it last time, but there is a last object that we can also model using the same technique. This is an hourglass. From now you can pause the video and try to model it and see how it goes. I'm myself gonna model it, so let's start. Again, the video will be sped up, just so that it doesn't last too much time. And as usual, from now on, you've got also the shortcuts. And that's it for the hourglass. Something important that you might notice is that if we look on the item tab of this panel and having our hourglass selected, if we have a look over here, this is written dimensions, so this means this hourglass is 1.21 meter high. This might be a bit too much for a normal hourglass, so what we might do is scale it down so that it has like a normal scale of, let's say, 0.35 meter, maybe 35 centimeters in height, and that will fit more our scene size. Now, the second really important things we have to check regularly is the scale of the object. Now that we have modified a lot of it, the scale is not uniform. You can see it's 0.1 in the X and Y axis, but 0.01 in the Z axis. This is best kept at 1 for each axis, and to do that without changing anything in the dimensions of the object, you can go to the menu Object, Apply, and then choose Scale. This will reset the scale at 111 on each axis, and you should do that for any object you have in your project. I'm now gonna start a new scene, and I'm gonna show you a bit more about another type of objects, which are curves. First of all, I'm gonna activate the add-on for the shortcuts so that you can follow along, and then I'm gonna delete all these objects that I don't need. Curves can be added to the scene using the add menu and go to curve and choose bezier. This is a curve. You can't really do much about it in this state, so what we need to do now is entering another mode of edition, which is called the edit mode. You have in the top left corner of your screen a drop-down list. Object mode is about modifying objects in their entirety, and the second mode, edit mode, is about modifying sub-parts of the object. Now you can see that the curve is actually composed of 2 points, one here and one here, and tangents that controls the direction of the curve. If I set myself in the orthographic view from the top, I can now select any point of the curve and modify it, like moving, rotation, or scale, just the way you would with a normal object. The only difference is that moving a point will modify the curve, but you have to take into account this red line, which is called a tangent, and that will control the curvature of the curve. This curve is like that because it's following or trying to go as close as possible from this handle. Look, if I rotate the handle, how the curve follows it. And it is exactly the same on this side. Okay? Now, one thing from the edit mode is that you have got a few other tools added that also correspond to the type of object that you have selected before entering this mode. Because this is a curve, you have the option of drawing your own curve, of extruding a point, of changing the radius around the point, its tilt, the shear, and then you also got a randomize option. Using any of these tools will add another gizmo to the selected point, for example, and clicking on it will activate the tool. Extrusion are like duplication, but you will still be connected to the previous point. So if I use this tool like that, you might not really see it, but it actually copied that point here, over there, and draw a line in between the two so that they are still connected. If I modified tangent a bit so that you can see, we've got now 3 points on our curve, and if I were, for example, to duplicate one point using the shortcut Shift and D, you will see I have another point here, but it's not connected to the previous point. Using the extrude tool, I will have another point, but it's connected to the previous point. This has a really strange shape because I've started the extrusion from a point in the middle of the curve, but if I do it from the edge of the curve, this is adding a normal point to the curve. I'm gonna delete this point using the X key on my keyboard and selecting vertices in this drop-down menu, and this has deleted the point. Now, once you modified your curve to your needs, what you can do is going to this tab of the property panel, and you will be given a few options to modify the aspects of the curve, because as a curve, this doesn't appear in your render. What you need is to add it some geometry, so go to the geometry and the bevel section of this panel and change the depth. You see, now your curve has a thickness and it's looking more like a pipe. And what you can do is still modify it just the way you would, like that, and you can see the pipe is changing in real time. Okay, the next tool I'm gonna show you is the radius tool. This allows you to control the thickness of the pipe where this point is. If you click on it, drag your mouse out or in to change the thickness, and you can maybe have some interesting shapes like that. I know it doesn't look like much, but hey, who knows, maybe it's a bag, or it could be anything. The tilt tool is not gonna be very visible here because it's only twisting the pipe on its local axis. The way to see it would be to reduce the resolution of the pipe here so that you can see that it's not round anymore, and if you use the tilt tool, it will actually rotate the pipe from this point. It's not really useful now because the pipe is flat, but it can be useful at some point. I'm not gonna demonstrate the shear tool just because I don't see any usefulness, and to be honest with you, I don't know how to use it with curves. And so the last tool I'm gonna use is the Randomized Tool to select all the points of your curve and then use this. It will just modify all the points, positions, rotation randomly, like that, so that you can maybe have another shape. Okay, that's it for the curves. What I'm gonna do now is demonstrate how to model objects with what we've learned about the curves. So now let's use what we learned today to create something for our little project. I'm gonna start a new scene, activate again the add-on, and now deleting those, I'm gonna drag in the new piece to build for the project. This is the chemistry kit, and so you can see there are a lot of pipes involved. As for the potion bottles, I'm only using the front and the perspective view because the side and top view doesn't add that much information. And let's go. I'm gonna first start building the main shapes, so all the objects and not the curves first, because it will help to position the curves afterwards. Now I've got all the necessary parts I can start with, and so let's add our first curve. See that it's big, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna then tweak it point by point and use what we've learned so far on the curves to create what are here. Maybe starting with the simpler curves. Now that I have this curve, I can change its thickness again in geometry and in the bevel section, and changing the value of depth. There you go, I've got my first pipe. Okay, all the simple pipes have been made. Now I'm gonna tackle this area here, and I think once it is done, I will be able to copy it on this side. This time I'm gonna start with a circle, and I can start building it like that, and I will do it here just so that we can see. What I'm gonna do is duplicate it first, then I can select this point and delete this segment. So X for the delete menu and choose segment. I can do it for those 2 points as well, and then what I can do is connect this point to this one using either the control point next segment menu or clicking the F shortcut. And now I've got something rotating like that. I could go on and copy this all the way down and then create connections between all the curves. I will do that. Now our objects are connected and it looks correct. Let's now copy it to the other side here and finish this model. There, it's finished. Let's have a look. Let's first merge all the objects together. Notice that you can't merge a mesh object with a curve object, so all the curve objects are merged together. If I check how it looks like once I switch to cycles and render mode, maybe I'll add a sunlight. It's kind of okay like that. What do you think? Okay, that concludes our tutorial for today. As always, I will link all the necessary files for you to work on in the description. As usual, have fun and see you in the next lesson. Bye!